not live. There you go.
There it goes. Hey, there it goes. I figured it out.
We don't have
We're live with
JT.
the NFL Bets Show. I'm here with John Statsational. JT died in the storm. Rip JT.
No, he did not die. He is okay.
At least we think he's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about the NFL and college games this week, the biggest college games in every NFL game, and our picks for those. So I guess we'll get right into it. I'll start with some college football. Kansas State is playing at home against Oklahoma State, two ranked teams coming off of Kansas State's loss was fairly bad. Oklahoma State getting beat by Utah isn't too bad. Kansas State's laying 5. The over-under is 57.5. What's your take here, John?
I like Oklahoma State in this game. You could still get, I think, 5.5 maybe in some spots. 5, but this line's come down a bit. I think it's two really good offenses, but in a different way, right? So the Kansas State team is one of the better teams rushing the ball in the country, but the pass attack for Oklahoma State, they're one of the most efficient passing teams in the country. They're averaging close to 310 yards a game passing. Bowman's been super effective, and I think their offensive line is going to be strong enough here that's going to give them a lot of time, and you could exploit the Kansas State secondary. I think that's what we're going to see. We should see a lot of points, I think, in this one, and I like Oklahoma State plus the points. I like the way this line has moved as well, kind of in that same direction. Quite a few of these games, typically, we pick the biggest matchups of the week, and they don't always trigger necessarily on my with my model, but this is one of the plays that I like in the model, Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I mean, I have a similar opinion to you as far as Bowman struggled a little bit last week against Utah, but I don't put too much stock in that because I'm really, really, really high on Utah this season. But even more than the side, I like the over in this game. I think that it's just going to be total shootout. We're looking at a 35-31 type game, and I don't have a strong feel for the side, but I think we're going to get a lot of points. Next, we got Auburn is at home against, I believe Oklahoma is still ranked like in maybe 21st or somewhere around there. Over-under is 44.5. Oklahoma's coming off that game against Tennessee where they looked really god-awful on offense. And, they're making a quarterback change to the guy they were using in the second half last time, and a bit more of a running quarterback, not as highly regarded of a recruit as the guy that they had before. So, I really I don't know why they're making that choice, just because they struggled against Tennessee. Tennessee is a top 5-ish team, very, very elite on the defensive line. I think any team is going to struggle against them. So I think that the quarterback change is a mistake. And for that reason, I like Auburn in this game, laying a point or on the money line, depending on what book you're at. And I like the under 44.5 because I don't think Oklahoma's going to be able to score.
Yeah, I had heard earlier in the week Hawkins was going to be the quarterback.
Yeah,
and then I just was looking right before we went on, and I saw something different. But
they changed their mind?
I don't know. I saw something that looked like it was fairly new. I was under the assumption when I was looking at this game, Hawkins was going to quarterback. He's the quarterback who you're referring to, who he's pretty much like a dual threat. He's a running type of quarterback. And I think he had some success in the second half. I thought that's why they were going to go to him. And I like the decision. I like Oklahoma in this game plus the 1.5. This is one of the best turnover teams in the country, Oklahoma, and Auburn has struggled with turnovers. So I think that's kind of going to be something to watch in this game. You've got 12 forced turnovers by Oklahoma. They lead the country. They've got 8 forced fumble recoveries, and that's really where the Auburn struggles have been. So, I mean, it's going to be tough to go on the road in this game plus the 1.5. It's probably a money line type of play here. They're gonna have to win this game outright, but I think that defense is going to be good enough for Oklahoma to bounce back after. Yeah, that was listen. I had them last week. I'm just going to come right back to them, and that was close last week. They almost got.
Yeah, I had Tennessee. I was sweating it at the end.
Yeah, it was close, and I caught that one on the radio actually at the end, but I'm going to just jump back on Oklahoma, and I like them here. I like the defense to get a couple of turnovers and win this game for them.
All right, next we'll head right into another big ranked matchup. Notre Dame is playing Louisville. Louisville beat my Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets last week by 12, but they did not look very convincing in doing so. Notre Dame has looked like they've been on a mission since they lost that horrible game against Northern Illinois. What's your take here that they're laying 6.5 and the over/under is 46.5?
Yeah, I was able to get this earlier in the week at 7, so that'll tell. I like the Louisville. I like Louisville plus the points. I mean, this is one of the best offenses in the country, but have they faced anybody? Like you said, I mean, Georgia Tech probably the best team that they faced. I don't think probably that's the best team that they've faced so far. They really haven't played any quality opponents, so this is for sure a step up in competition. But they are averaging over 47 points a game, which is crazy when you look at the total on this game. I think it's like 48 or something like that. So they're averaging basically what this total is. So don't expect the shootout fireworks, the type of offense that we've seen from Louisville. But I think, the quarterback's been outstanding. He's got 8 touchdowns, no picks in the first 3 games, ranked 6th in FBS in passing efficiency. I think they're going to be able to keep this game close. I agree. I mean, listen, there's injuries as well that you've got to deal with. There's a couple of key defensive injuries on the Notre Dame side of the ball that they're dealing with. I think they're going to be able to stretch out this Notre Dame secondary, get some points up on the board. I like the game to go over. We've seen the line. The total has come down a bit. I still think this game goes over. And typically when you like that dog of 7 or more, you like the game to go under. I think this is a case of where I think the more points scored in this game, it favors Louisville.
I agree with that point, but I have a completely different take on the game. I'm inclined to just completely toss out the Northern Illinois game as an anomaly. Notre Dame has looked like they've looked incredible ever since. And, I just don't see what I saw out of Louisville last week. That was one of the games I watched the entire game start to finish. I just don't trust what I see from them whatsoever. Notre Dame laying less than a touchdown with how they've looked. I think Notre Dame is just going to pound them. I don't think they're going to be able to score very many points. We'll go to the next big game. Illinois coming off of a massive win over AP and Snyder's Nebraska Cornhuskers on the road as a 9-point underdog, going into Happy Valley to play Penn State. Penn State's laying 18 with a total of 48. What do you got for this one?
I like Penn State. I had Illinois last week, and I had Penn State last week as well. Penn State was laying 7 touchdowns or something like that last week, and we're able to cover that one. I think it's going to be difficult. This is a night game, which is it's always tough to go into Beaver Stadium. Night game. I think you could still get this one 17.5 in some spots. Shouldn't matter, the 17.5 to 18. It's not too big of a difference. If it got down to 70, this was bet up. I mean, I know you pay attention to the lines. Got bet up and then back down again, right, recently. So it's got up to like 18, and it's come down maybe even I think 17.5 is the best you can get it for the Penn State side. But I just think, listen, Penn State, that the game that they had last week, I mean, how much weight can you put on it with Kent State? But they had 718 yards in total in that game. I think their defensive unit is strong. They've definitely been limiting opponents. They're not giving up that many points in that building. Always tough to go in there and score. I like Penn State to kind of win this one going away.
I agree with you. Penn State has just looked like, before the season, I took Penn State to win the national championship. I took them to win the Big Ten. They have not shown me anything to make me not believe that that's still going to happen. They look very, very good. I just don't see how Illinois scores at all in this game. Illinois' offense, like last week, they put up more points than they've probably put up in the past 2 years combined. They're not going to do that to Penn State. I think this is going to be a 35-0 type game. I think they'll just kill them. So then we go into the biggest game of the week, where it's very important to our friend Matthew Wiley.
Yeah, it's a couple of reasons this one's big.
Whose cash out option has now risen to $54,000 from $47,000 on the Steam on Alabama. Now that the game is a pick'em in Tuscaloosa, Alabama faces number 2 Georgia. Over-under's 49. And I'll just start with this one because I have a really strong take here. I think Georgia's got some key injuries, especially on the offensive line. And I think Alabama is going to just cram it down their throat and have no problem running the ball, win this game going away. I don't think it's going to be super high scoring, but I don't think Georgia's going to score very much. I think we're looking at a 27-14-ish score for Alabama. What about you?
I am going to be rooting for Alabama just strictly for that Wiley hit. I mean, it's over it's a 6-figure hit, right? If Alabama just wins,
it's $117,000.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll be pulling for that. My numbers actually, I'll give you what my dad had Georgia as a it should have been like a 3-point favorite in this game. So I have an edge on the Georgia side, but I'm going to be rooting for Alabama. But just to give you just what I'm looking at, I mean, I think Georgia's going to win. I think this defense is going to be I mean, their defense is one of the best in the country right now. They haven't given up a touchdown, I don't believe, all season. So they're only allowing 91 yards per game passing. Listen, Kirby has not been good though in this matchup, but this isn't Saban anymore. So you got to give the experience edge here to Kirby. This is going to be the first big game that we're seeing and now I'm forgetting his name now for Alabama, but this is the first big test for sure for Alabama. And listen, Beck's been really good when he's played against top 20 teams. He's been his record is fantastic, and he's been able to manage the games, make big plays. He's been in the big spot before. I think Georgia wins, but I'm certainly going to be pulling for Alabama. It means a whole lot more for Wiley here than my pick, but my model does like Georgia.
I'm pretty disappointed in Wiley that we're not going to Tuscaloosa. We checked the he's not able to go because of some family stuff, but we checked the hotel prices in Tuscaloosa, and it's like $4,000 for Saturday night.
Yeah. No, you'd have to win the game just to cover the cost of the tickets
hey, the South is crazy for college football.
Yeah,
we love it. All right, we'll move into the NFL now and stay in the state of Georgia with the Falcons laying 2.5, coming off of that loss to Kansas City where they probably should have won at the end of that game with that non-call on Kyle Pitts, laying 2.5 with a total of 42 against New Orleans, who looked unbeatable the first 2 weeks, and then their offense kind of fell apart last week. What's your take on this one, the Falcons versus the Saints?
Yeah, I did not expect the offense to be the problem against Philly. I mean, I really thought they'd be able to move the ball well against Philly. I didn't like the Philly offense nearly as much, so I wasn't shocked there that the Philly offense really didn't produce all that many points. I thought New Orleans was the better team. I'm gonna get back though on New Orleans here this week. I like them against the Falcons. I would love to get the 3. I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't think you're going to get 3 points on there. I don't think we see that number, but I've kind of been sitting around waiting for that. But yeah, I think New Orleans is the better team for sure. Should they have beaten Kansas City, Atlanta last week? Yeah, most likely they should have. I mean, certainly that was pass interference. I know we've got AP. We're just crapping all over AP in the chats right now between Nebraska and Kansas City. But listen, I mean, we'll get to Kansas City at some point here. But Kansas City, not nearly as good as maybe the 3-0 record shows. That I think you said it. They could be 0-3. I would say more. They could be 1-2, but certainly 2-1, and they're 3-0. I'm still on the Saints here. I was bullish on them preseason. I was bullish on them versus the Falcons. I think this line is basically telling you that these teams are equal. I think the Saints do have an advantage, and I expect the Saints to bounce back here and win this game.
So some information actually broke right before we came on, like maybe 5 or 10 minutes, that Olave's toast.
Oh, really? I didn't. Okay.
So the line did move to 3 now on the Falcons. So I mean, I was on Atlanta before that. I'm still on Atlanta. I've been bullish on Atlanta the entire season. I think New Orleans, I had a strong belief in New Orleans last week, and they did not. Their offense, kind of fell back to earth. The Eagles were able to game plan and figure it out. And a divisional opponent like the Falcons seem to be figuring out this offense with Cousins more and more as the weeks go by. And I just think that they're going to win this game being at home. Saints missing guys. I like the Falcons. So we're on opposite sides there. Next game, another big game with an undefeated team, a surprisingly undefeated team. The Steelers laying 2 going into Indianapolis with a total of 40. Justin Fields has looked okay, I guess. I mean, he hasn't blown the games, which, Mike Tomlin, they just keep chugging along. And, they're going against AR-15, who has not looked great the last couple of weeks. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, he has not looked good. I mean, I was high on him coming into the season, and it's really you're relying on him taking the step forward as a passer. I mean, obviously he could run the ball. He's big. I mean, I wouldn't want to get hit by him running. I don't think a lot of linebackers want to. Certainly, no defensive backs want to get hit by him running downhill. but he has just not been accurate with the ball. The pass he threw in the end zone last week, I don't know if you saw it, for the interception against the Bears, was just, I mean, I don't even know what he was thinking there. And a lot of these downfield passes are just, everything is high, which you throw the ball high in the NFL over receivers' heads, those are interceptions. So I told you last week, we were talking about DFS. I kind of like the Bears there as a defensive team, because I thought the opportunities for pick sixes were going to be there. And I mean, man, the way the Steelers team is playing, I had a show with Mangone earlier in the week. He was talking about the Steelers defense being one of the best defenses of all time. I'm not ready to I'm not ready to say that just yet, because what happens is in the NFL, I mean in college as well, but you see it in the NFL, the offense really helps. The offense can help the defense. The style of play that you play on offense will make a defense look even better. The example I brought up on Wednesday when I started doing a lot of these numbers that I run here for power rankings and whatnot was when you had the Alex Smith San Francisco 49ers, and then somewhere around game 10 or whatever it was, and Kaepernick took over. Their scoring margin actually decreased under Kaepernick, but they were scoring like 9 more points per game because the defense was giving up more, because they were just a more dynamic offense under Kaepernick. So, I mean, not a knock on him. He was doing his job and putting more points on the board, but you see that. So with this Steelers team, that's why Tomlin is so good. He knows what he's got. A lot of these coaches basically look for players that fit their system. I think Tomlin has proven he can coach any type of players in any type of system, and he'll make it work for them. So I think that's where they're doing a great job with Fields. It's not like you said. I think Fields has just kind of managed the games and hasn't lost any games for him. I don't know how, this offense just hasn't impressed yet. I think with all that said here, my lean is I had the model like New Orleans on the last game. I don't know if I mentioned that. I don't have a model play necessarily on this game. I know it's one of those Wong teasers that we like to talk about on the Colts, but I do think the Steelers I think the Steelers go win this game and they go 4-0. I don't trust this quarterback. I don't trust Richardson against this defense and the quality that they're playing here. The only thing is if they could get, perhaps that they take advantage of how good they are rushing the passer and using Richardson to kind of negate that. Maybe that slows this pass rush down, which has really been the strength of the team with Watt causing all sorts of disruptions. But I like the Steelers here to win it.
I agree with you. A team like Indianapolis that is fairly one-dimensional with Richardson in there, you kind of got to think that Tomlin and their brass over there in Pittsburgh isn't going to allow them to score very many points. So I mean, I like the under 2 a lot because I don't think the Steelers are going to score a ton of points either, but I certainly don't think the Colts are going to score points. And the Steelers, only laying 2. I like the Steelers this week as well.
Have the Steelers not gotten like the best matchup so far this year too? I mean, they've really played the teams that they could dictate the pace to so far this year. So they haven't gotten it. They haven't played Baltimore yet. They haven't played those. So we'll see how they look there. But I agree. I think this is another game where they could just dictate the pace.
Yeah, and if they keep running up these wins,
yeah.
I mean, if they're 4-0 at the end of this week, while the Bengals are 0-4 and the Ravens are 1-3, it's like they're so far behind. They could run away. Next game,
crazy. Crazy.
The atrocious Jacksonville Jaguars, who I picked to win the division this year, shout out me, go into Houston to play the Texans, who looked equally atrocious last week, a team that we were both down on in the preseason. But now that whole division is seemingly gone to shit. So we'll see how that works out. Jaguars are getting 6, so runners 45.5. What do you think on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I was not high on Jacksonville or Houston coming into the year. The team that we just talked about that I thought was going to win that division was the Colts. So I don't think that's going to happen either. But I like Jacksonville plus the point. I think you had to get this one, though, at the 7, which is now come down to 6.5. I don't think there's any 7s available when I was looking a little bit earlier. So I think the best you can get is 7 is the 6.5. I like these teams. I like a team that comes off just an absolute. I love when they get destroyed that game before. I always feel like you get a little bit of value in the next game. Houston did not get destroyed, but did not look good. Agreed.
They got destroyed. It was 34-7.
Houston?
Yeah.
Boy, I don't even remember that game being 34-7.
Minnesota, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Minnesota has destroyed everybody, which is crazy. We'll talk about them, who might be the best team in the league right now. But yeah, no, when you get that's true. So you got 2 teams coming off the big blowout, and actually that's one of the things I look for. Houston would normally trigger in that situation off of a big blowout. But Jacksonville's looked so bad here the last couple of games that I think we're getting a little bit of value. I think the market is giving us the indication here that Jacksonville's the play. You might be on the other side here, but the 6.5 I don't love. At 7, I feel much more comfortable at the 7 number.
No, I think Jacksonville will be a lot more competitive this week. I put a lot more stock in Houston doing that against Minnesota, just laying an egg, versus Jacksonville. Buffalo is a juggernaut. Minnesota TBD. I think that Houston's performance is a lot more damning than Jacksonville's. Jacksonville, I think that they'll be able to, Doug Peterson will be able to figure something out. I mean, I know Lawrence looks pretty broken. You saw him do that pirouette in the pocket last week. Everybody's making fun of it, but it's the NFL. Week to week, everything's different. And 6 points just seems like way too much in a divisional matchup of two teams that are pretty evenly matched to me. So, I like Jacksonville with the points. I like Jacksonville on the money line. I think it's a close game. We'll head right into the next game that we just talked about, the Vikings going on the road to visit the Packers with Jordan Love ostensibly coming back. Green Bay's laying 2.5. That seems like a number where they don't really know if he's going to play, but they're saying they think he's going to play. He's been practicing limited or whatever. Over-under's 44. Do you think the Vikings go into Lambeau and go 4-0?
I think that line is telling you he's playing. I think just with how good Minnesota's been, I think Minnesota, if it's not Love, they'd be favored in this game. So I think that's a Love in line. Yeah. This is one. I mean, I hate to take the cop out, but boy, you've got that prime number 2.5 to tease up to 8.5. Did they get blown out with how good this? I mean, we keep talking about, a lot of people talking about Darnold justifiably. I mean, he's been excellent so far this year, but their defense has been just pretty locked down. And all right, they played the Giants in week 1, but they held down San Francisco after you saw what San Francisco did in week 1 to the Jets. They held them down. I'm totally forgot that it was the Houston who played them last week. I was thinking of the Houston-Chicago game the week before, but hold down at what we think is a pretty good Houston offense here. Certainly have a ton of weapons. Held them down as well. I like Minnesota to go in there and win the game. It's not a model play of mine, but just from my own analysis, I think Minnesota wins the game, and I love it. Take it up to the 8.5. I can't see Green Bay being able to blow them out. Green Bay has been playing listen, it'll be a different style game here with Love than they've been playing with Willis, but I don't think they're going to be able to blow out Minnesota with how well this defense is playing. I think the game stays tight. I think it's fairly low scoring, and I like Minnesota to win it.
I tend to kind of throw out Green Bay's first game against Philly because the field was in such bad shape that everybody was slipping all over the place, and so there were 1 million points scored. But Green Bay's defense the last 2 weeks against Indianapolis and then again against Tennessee, like, they've looked very, very strong. And, with them being at home, Lambeau's not an easy place to go into. Jordan Love coming back, I was very bullish on him before the season. He played well in the first game. I think they're a top-tier offense when he's out there. I think Green Bay's better on both sides of the ball, despite what Minnesota's done so far this year. I've always been a believer in Sam Darnold, but I just don't think he's on Jordan Love's level. So lay the 2.5, Green Bay from me. So we're on opposite sides of that one. And then next, we've got my favorite game of the week. My Carolina Panthers coming off a glorious victory in Las Vegas at home against the 0-3 Cincinnati Bengals of Matthew Wiley and Tony Niehaus. 0-3. Andy Dalton leading the Carolina Panthers, throwing mad touchdowns, although Adam Thielen got hurt. 36 points. What do you think about what Carolina did last week? Do you think it's going to happen again? The total's 47, and it's getting hit up. So, well, the market believes in us.
We were chatting privately on Sunday with, some of the horrible quarterback play that we've seen in the leagues. And this is a league where it's very cyclical. I always go back to the West Coast offense came about, and you had these running backs who could catch passes. And what did the defenses do? They wound up getting safeties, basically oversized safeties, to play middle linebacker. Then you had the big, heavy running backs to combat that and run over those small, undersized linebackers. And then so it kind of changed. and the league kept changing. You had the greatest show on turf. It always evolves. And I think, we've seen these athletic running type quarterbacks, and perhaps the defenses have now kind of figured out how to play it at this level. And you're seeing these older pocket quarterbacks have success. Dalton comes in there, lights up Vegas last week. You've had these you talk about Darnold and some of these guys who are now, at least for the first 3 weeks, some of the top quarterbacks in the league. And you look at the point spread here, you've got 2 pocket quarterbacks, one of the highest point totals of the week, up that's continually going up. You can get up to 47.5 on this one. So, man, Cincinnati, I don't think I like the over, if anything, in this game. I think the Carolina defense is still suspect. They seemed to play really inspired last week. I think they were just excited to have
a quarterback that didn't suck ass.
Yeah, to have a quarterback back there. If you watch, they were running around the field. They looked really good. But the problem Cincinnati had, and listen, Cincinnati, they knocked me out of the circa. Me and a lot of other people who got knocked out last week. But that was tough to watch, that defense not be able to tackle at all. That defense looked awful. Burrow was fine. I mean, they put up a ton of points. He had a lot of yardage in that game. I think look, I'm gonna take Carolina plus the points. I think they keep this one close. I think there's a lot of problems right now on the defensive side for Cincinnati. I like Carolina to be able to win this game again and get a little something going in a division that maybe, who knows, maybe they can become relevant.
Right. I mean, I'm with you. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game, and frankly, Cincinnati, this is pure reputation that they're laying this many points on the road. This is not the same team. Like, even last year they weren't that good, and like they're still living off their reputation from 2 years ago.
Their win total this year at 10.5 was just a joke. I thought
it's a joke. Yeah. And for them to still be laying this many points on the road against a team that looked, as you said, inspired and completely different than they did because Bryce Young was so terrible. I don't understand how Carolina's getting 4.5 at home. It seems like a gift to me. I really like the Panthers in this game. Andy Dalton's not going to make turnovers and make stupid mistakes. That's the only way they would really get killed. It'll be within a touchdown either way, and take the points in this one for me. Next game, we have one team with a rookie quarterback who played better last week, and one team that has nobody left on their team because everybody's hurt. The Bears at home versus the Rams. The Bears are laying 3, and that line has gotten steamed up a bit. The over-under is 40.5. Who do you like in this game?
Yeah, I got a feeling you're going to disagree with me here. I'm taking the points again. I'm taking the Rams plus the points. That was another. Well, it wasn't a huge survivor win, but it did knock some people out last week in a game that really San Francisco never had no business losing that game. But hey, look, number 1 draft pick last year, looked a lot better. A lot of it was, look, the stats look better, right? But they didn't get the job done. I watched a bit of that game. I didn't get a chance. I wanted to watch the whole thing on replay, and I watched a bit of it early on in that game. Just some suspect throws. I got to watch the second half when he really lit it up and see how good he looked there. But I like the Rams again. I'm going back to the quarterbacks here, and I think you've got the experienced quarterback who I think a type of quarterback who, granted, they've got a ton of injuries, but we saw Kyron Williams really step up, and I thought that was going to be the DFS guy that really stepped. Everyone was looking towards the wide receivers and which wide receiver. I thought Williams was going to get a lot more involved in the passing game, certainly a lot more in the running game. And I think from now on, I think he's going to be that guy. I think you mentioned, like, how did this guy even make it in the round that he did? But I think a lot of that is, listen, he's a talent, no doubt about it. I like McVay as far as from a play caller, and I like the quarterback there. I like the experience in a league where we just talked about, I think these pocket quarterbacks are right now have an advantage over some of these other teams. So I'll take the Rams plus the points.
To me, the Bears are better than them all over the field except for at quarterback. And Caleb looked a lot better last week. He threw for like 350 yards. I know they were down a lot of the game, so they were kind of chucking it, but Roma Dunze looked really fucking good. With how beat up the Rams are, I think the Rams are going to struggle to score in this game against the Bears defense. The Bears defenses look pretty good.
They have, yeah.
So I like the under more than the spread, the under 40.5, but I do like the Bears laying the field goal to win this game and cover that. The next game, we have two teams coming off of really, really, really big wins, one expected and one not. The Jets are at home against the Broncos. The spread's 7.5. Aaron Rodgers looked like himself last week. Bo Nix had the best game of his young career. The Denver defense dominated the Buccaneers. How are you feeling on this one?
Yeah, I was not really high. I wasn't a big Bo Nix guy coming into the season. I watched something a week or so ago. Kurt Warner does a great job, by the way, on YouTube. If you want to watch some of his stuff breaking down, he doesn't do every game, but he kind of breaks down some of the quarterbacks. And he broke him down coming into the season, looking at some of the preseason work that he had, and he liked what he saw. So I mean, who am I to say something different than Kurt Warner? He knows that position a whole lot better than I do, but. I still think this is a real tough spot for the kid. They played a terrible defense. The Tampa defense is awful. Great win by them. He looked really good. I watched the game. He looked great in the game against that team. Great first win on the road. Listen, all the kudos go to them for that. But I think you're stepping up in class here with this defense. You saw how good. Throw week one out. I thought they just got totally outcoached in week one. I don't think Sal is all that great a coach. I think having the entire offseason to prepare for a team, I thought Shanahan just totally demolished them in that game. But you've seen against not great offenses here, obviously the Patriots in Tennessee, and this is not a great – I would not consider Denver a great offense here either. This Jet defense will be able to shut them down. I think they cover the 7.5. I think they're going to struggle to score. And you've seen Rodgers. Listen, Rodgers is just going to be efficient. He's not going to put up 350 yards. He's going to be efficient. They played that beautiful ball control game that they played against the Patriots. Just did not let the Patriots get on the field. I think they could do something similar. I think you could run on this Denver team, which Tampa was able to do a bit with Irving, who looks like he may start to take over there as their main running back. But I think you've got with the running back with Breece Hall and then Rodgers playing ball control, kind of keeping it away from Denver, picking them apart, hitting the open guy, moving it 5 yards at a time. I think the Jets just cover this game, and it's going to be one of the more boring games. I think it'll be a very boring cover of 7.5.
I think it's going to be very, very similar to the game last week that the Jets had. I don't see Bo Nix being able to score on this defense whatsoever. Rodgers, he'll be able to score on everybody. He'll do his thing where he bleeds the play clock down to 1 second. Throw a little crossing route, do it again and again and again and again and again. And, I see it being a 24-3 type game, exactly like the one against the Patriots. I love the way the Broncos looked last week, but as you said, this is a different caliber of team. I think the Jets, after these last 2 weeks, they found their footing. If Rodgers can stay upright the whole season, they've got something cooking there. And this is another obvious parlay piece to tease it down, or teaser piece to tease it down from 7.5 to 1.5. I think that's the best teaser play of the week is on the Jets. I think they cover the 7.5 though. I don't think you need to tease it.
This was going to be my survivor pick if I lasted. Was going to be the Jets because you could still take San Francisco. So it sounds like you kind of like that one in survivor pools as well. Taking the Jets, at least on paper, you don't have a lot more opportunities on them.
Yeah, I assume. Well, so many people are eliminated. It's like unless you're in one like Circo where somebody's going to make it to the end, at this point you're just trying to survive. And I think the Jets are a great choice if you're just trying to survive. Whereas if you're trying to make it all the way to the end, they've still got Miami at home, and that'll be a bad one. Next game we go right to Denver's opponent from last week, the Bucs, welcoming the Philadelphia Eagles to town after Philly's ugly as hell win over the Saints in New Orleans. Philly is beat to shit at the wide receiver position. And, the over-under has cratered in this game. The line is going wildly toward the Buccaneers. They just officially ruled Devontae Smith out. A.J. Brown is questionable. Tampa Bay has moved to a pick-em at Circa with a total of 43. Do you think the Bucs will be able to win this game against the beat-up Eagles the way they did in the playoffs last year?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an Eagles fan. Just in general, obviously, I'm not an Eagles fan, but I'm just not a fan of this Eagles team. I was very bearish on them last year. Came into this season bearish on this team. Now the model had the Eagles last week against New Orleans, and we both agreed we were going to kind of go against that and go with what we were seeing, and that was New Orleans. So that wound up not being the right play. I'm going to go against Philly here, though. Again, the model likes Tampa. I like Tampa. Hurts, when he doesn't have, if you don't have Brown in there, he has not been the same quarterback without A.J. Brown on the field. He's not a Mahomes. He's not a Josh Allen. He's not one of these guys who kind of uplifts the entire wide receiving core. I think he needs the wide receivers to kind of make him the better quarterback. He's not in that caliber of a Mahomes or a Josh Allen. So when he doesn't have his full core of wide receivers, I'm always down on Hurts. And I think the Philly defense played really well above expectations last week. I think Tampa's going to be able to score on them. That was just that game last week, I think, was a bit of an anomaly for Tampa against Denver. I think they bounce back here and win this game.
I agree. I think that Philly, their issues with injuries they hurts, for lack of a better word, more than most teams' injuries hurt their quarterback. Tampa coming off that bad loss. We talked about how we like to back teams coming off of really, really poor losses. Tampa getting killed at home by Denver. I think they'll come off that game a little inspired this week. And, the fact that it's only a pick 'em, I'm with you on Philly. I don't have that much belief in the Eagles this year. I think they're a worse team than Dallas. I don't think they're going to win the division. So I like Tampa to win this game as well. We go to another NFC East team in the next game. The surging Washington Commanders going to Arizona to face the Cardinals, who have looked pretty good this year. They did lose last week to the Lions, but they looked great against the Rams. Kyler Murray looks re-energized with another year separated from his ACL injury. Highest total of the week. Got a total of 49 now. Washington is getting 3.5. Do you believe in Jaden Daniels to go cross country on the road and win this game?
Man, I think they priced this one correctly. I want to start with the total, though. We're seeing the total was up. The total was higher here. I mean, it got bet up to like 50.5, right? And then came down. Let me look at Pinnacle. Pinnacle actually had it at 51 at one point and is now down to 49 at Pinnacle. So we've just seen this move, 2-point move down. And this is the game that I think everyone's kind of focused on for DFS. I would expect a shootout here. I think Daniels will be able to put up a bunch of points, but I don't think they're going to be able to stop this Arizona offense at all. So I think the edge to me goes to the Arizona offense. I think Arizona will be able to outscore them, but I'm having a hard time agreeing with the line move. I don't know. I like your opinion on the on reading the market a little bit. The market seems to be saying that they like this game under, but I just don't see it. It looks like an over to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm in the same boat as you. This was a game that I was thinking about targeting in DFS. I think everybody's thinking about targeting it in DFS. Maybe they think that, or the logic, at least in my own head, for if you want to like make a reason for Washington and under, is that they'll be able to control the ball a little bit with Daniels and Robinson to running it. But I tend to think it's still going to shoot out. I do like the over, even though it's moving the other way. I'm not the biggest believer in Jaden Daniels, relatively speaking. Kyler Murray looked fucking incredible under Cliff Kingsbury the first year or two as well. So, it could be a flash in the pan situation. A lot of people want to crown him already after 2 good performances. I'm not there yet. I do like him, but, I'm not so certain that I would still take him over, Caleb or whoever else was available in the draft.
That Washington defense is terrible.
It's really bad. Arizona's going to be able to score basically at will. I like the over. The game in a shootout like this, the variance is so high that I don't really like one side or another here.
I don't know.
It's just the over. Now we have another team similar to the Rams, completely beat up. Got nobody left. San Francisco came into the season as the Super Bowl favorite or second favorite, depending on where you're at. But luckily for them, they get New England at home this week, laying 10.5, total of 40.5. This looks like it might get ugly. Do you think it's going to get ugly?
No, I think this is one that like people like no one's going to bet the Patriots. No one's going to take the plus 10.5. I think most people won't even play San Francisco. I think people are just kind of they're banged up. They came off that loss last week. Like they don't know what to expect. To me, I like the 10.5 here. I just think they're too banged up. The Patriots with the kind of the long week here. I love the teams coming off of just an awful primetime showing. I love those spots. Nobody wants to touch the Patriots against San Francisco here. I know that the whole traveling across the country BS. I don't put too much weight into that. I think they hold this game. I think they'll hold the game close. I just think San Francisco is just a little bit banged up. The only problem you have here is San Francisco losing that game last week. I think they come out. They obviously cannot afford to lose another game, so they should come out and win. But I can't give up in this day and age in the NFL. What we've seen week in and week out, this is the first double-digit point spread we've had all year. I just have a hard time laying double digits in the NFL right now. As bad as the Patriots are, San Francisco is not quite the team we thought they were coming into the season. Injuries and whatnot have attributed to that, or contributed to it. But I like the Patriots here plus the points.
I'm not on the same side as you. I'm not really like strongly convicted in San Francisco, but the play I like more is the over on the 40.5. San Francisco, despite all of their injuries, they have shown that they can still score. Their defense has given up points. They gave up 27 last week. They gave up 30 something, it was like 24 the week before the Vikings. If the Patriots get 14-17, which I think is probable, the game flies over because San Francisco is going to put up at least 24 to me. So, I like this game to the over a lot more than I like either side, but I do lean towards San Francisco laying the 10.5.
I mean, I think if it goes over, it's going to be then San Francisco. The game has to stay tight for me to hit the Patriots bet. It's got to stay low scoring. So, if you like the over, I would like San Francisco as well. So I kind of, by default there, I kind of like this one Patriots under on a parlay. But if you like the 49ers, I think you just kind of take the over. Or if you like the over, I think you jump on the 49ers as well and parlay it if you like.
Next, we've got a game where a lot of news that broke a couple hours ago has swung the line pretty wildly. Cleveland is going into Las Vegas. They're laying a 1.5, over under of 36.5. Max Crosby and Devontae Adams both ruled out for the Raiders. Deshaun Watson's looked like dog shit, which is, pretty much par for the course ever since the incidents. What are you thinking here with Cleveland looking so inept on offense, but then the Raiders missing half their team?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, right, with the Raiders, but that's kind of flipped the line here. It's gotten it to, moved it to a Browns favorite. Whenever Deshaun Watson is a favorite, I like to fade. I just like to take the other side. You're 2-0 doing that so far this year. I'm going to see if we could go 3-0 with it. I'll take the Raiders plus the points. Watson just in his career has just not been a good favorite when he's in games that he's favored. He just has not done well against the spread here. So I'm just going to continue with that. But I think it's a tough game. The Raiders just looked awful to Carolina last week. They're not a great team, obviously, but I don't think Cleveland's all that good either. And until what I've seen, and I believe it was watching Kurt Warner a couple of weeks ago. He's been analyzing the game and saying, Watson, the throws are there, and he's looking in the right spot. Like the man is open. And as far as in the NFL, if you're barely open, you're open. He's got it, and he just refuses to pull the trigger, and then it looks like the pass rush is getting there, and then he's scrambling trying to make a play. So I think he's suffering a little mentally more than anything, and he's lacking confidence, and I don't know when he gets that confidence back, but I'm just going to continue to kind of fade him in these spots, especially when he's a favorite, until I see otherwise. So I'm down on Watson for sure. I'll take the Raiders plus the points.
I will say this about Watson. There are rumblings that this latest lawsuit is going to get him suspended again, in which case they would have to turn to Jameis Winston, but I don't think it's going to happen before this game goes off.
I like watching Winston play. I'll be happy to see Winston.
You know who does not lack confidence?
No, that is 100% true.
Yeah. I was heavily toward the Raiders on this game, but with the announcement of these their best player on offense and defense, both not playing, I don't have much interest in taking this. I do like the under 36.5. I think it's going to be a rock fight, 17-14 type game. I think it's going to be really low scoring. I lean to the Browns now just because the Raiders are missing their guys, but I'm not betting the side. And then we stick in the AFC West, the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs, somehow laying 7 or 7.5, depending on where you're at, on the road at the Chargers, where Justin Herbert can't walk. The over-under is 40.5. John, Herbert seems intent on playing despite clearly being unable to move. And that has driven this line way up after watching him play last week in Pittsburgh. What's your feeling here on Kansas City lucking into another spot where it looks like they're going to win pretty easily?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, when was the last time Mahomes was in a game where the total was under 40?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember one. I mean, I'm sure someone will throw one out like quickly, but I can't think of a game where he was playing and the total was 39, sub 40. So we're looking at like 39.5 over at FanDuel, juiced to the over minus 115. But yeah, it's crazy. I don't have a strong fit. Listen, to me, it's always when I'm handicapping a Chiefs game, I have to have a strong reason to go against the Chiefs because to me, Mahomes is the difference maker. So he's about 1.5 points on my numbers. And there used to be a few quarterbacks who were able to do that. Brady.
We used to do it with Brady and the Patriots.
Manning, Breeze, Rodgers. There's really, I think I'm down to Mahomes at this point of guys.
Josh Allen.
And Josh Allen. It's the two quarterbacks that I really give the bump to now. There's no other quarterbacks that I really have to do that with. And so I've got to have a real compelling reason. I think it's going to be extremely difficult. Listen, what the Chargers want to do. And you got to love the coach. He wins and he gets his teams ready to go. He will try and play. The NFL is all about dictating your style on these other teams. This is what Tomlin does so well. He's dictated his style of play on the other team, force you to play their style, and then try to win the game when you don't have the talent, right? The Chiefs, pretty much, when you have the quarterback, you've got the talent. They're going to try to run the ball against the Chiefs. I think they'll be successful. I think they will be able to run the ball. So I won't be shocked if this game stays close. But, gun to my head, I'll lay the points. I do not like this game whatsoever. And I will take the over just because I just can't believe I can't imagine taking a game with Mahomes. But listen, they haven't been lighting it up either offensively with Mahomes. Kelsey looks like a little too much partying in the offseason, maybe. I don't know. Maybe 35 has a little bit more to do with that than anything else. But he looks slow. So I don't know if he's
slow in the regular season last year, though.
He did, but he's just not. I mean, he has not been open. They're not utilizing him in the offense because he's not open. We'll see. I mean, my lean here would be the Chiefs just because I'll take Mahomes over anybody if I don't have a strong opinion. But I'm not going to be shocked if this game is one of those 17-14 type of games. Chiefs win it late on a bad call in the end zone or something like that.
I have the opposite opinion on the total. I like the under here. We know, as you said, we know what Harbaugh wants to do. He's going to run the fucking ball. Herbert can hardly fucking walk. The Chargers are going to have a real tough time scoring, but they're going to have a real easy time bleeding the shit out of the clock. And so, that could also keep the game close, but I'm not inclined to back a quarterback that can hardly walk. So I'm actually leaning toward the Chiefs and the under.
Yeah, it's a crazy one to take, but I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like the Chiefs. I like the under there. I think the Chiefs will be able to score a decent amount. Derwin James is suspended. But the Chargers they're gonna have a rough go, I think, on offense. Then we get the Sunday night game, which is probably the best game of the week. Baltimore at home against Buffalo. Baltimore coming off of that odd game where it looked like they were going to beat the shit out of your Cowboys, but they, almost blew it at the end.
2 weeks in a row.
28-25. They're laying 2.5, total 46.5 against Buffalo, who has looked like unbeatable. What are your thoughts here? The line is moving toward the Ravens a little bit, despite how great Buffalo has looked. do you think the Ravens are going to be or hand Buffalo their first L of the year?
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. I think the line is right. I didn't bring up Lamar. Lamar. I kind of I bump him up slightly as well. So it's kind of you've got two of the best three quarterbacks playing against each other in this game. I'm more interested in the total. I can't get my head wrapped around the total. I mean, Buffalo's given up some points. They gave up a ton of points in week 1 to Arizona. Baltimore, you've seen how susceptible they've been. I mean, they let the Raiders win that game 2 weeks ago. They let the Cowboys come back in that game. And with the late defense, I think Buffalo is going to be able to put points on the board. I think Baltimore will as well. So I kind of like the over more than anything. I think the game, I'm leaning towards taking the points here with Allen and the Bills, but I feel a little bit better about the over. I don't know about you.
I do like the over as well. My explanation for why it's not higher is that both of these teams have shown a propensity to run the ball a ton this year, and so the possession count might be a little suppressed. That would be my logic for why it's not like 51. But I do like the over. I like Baltimore more. I think the Ravens, obviously, the game against Vegas was just ridiculous. They probably should have won the game against the Chiefs. They looked great last week against Dallas right up until they didn't. I've got all the faith in the world in Lamar at home. I think this is going to be a really good game, but I think that that Baltimore wins it late, probably on Tucker field goal, something like that.
Yeah, I hate this because it's very much a fan kind of thing, but you kind of feel like you said, like Baltimore deserves to be better than, like their record deserves to be better. So it's hard to see them go 1-3,
right?
And like a loss to the Bills, all right, no big deal. You drop through, like that's a very fan way to kind of look at it. Like,
but again, if they lose and Pittsburgh wins, they're in the shit.
It's tough. Yeah, absolutely. Pittsburgh's in the driver's seat for sure. With Cleveland not looking all that great and Cincinnati's done. Yeah, it's crazy. That's the NFL this year.
Yeah. And we go from the best game of the week to the worst game of the week. Tennessee getting +1, going into Miami in one of the Monday Night Football games. Total of 37. Miami, I think they're starting. Are they starting Tyler Huntley? I feel like he was non-committal on that.
It was yes. It's not Thompson. It's Huntley. I'm pretty sure.
So Huntley has, been there like a week. Tennessee is 0-3. Their offense looked pretty bad last week. In the first 2 weeks, Levis made some really catastrophic mistakes that cost them games. I don't really know what to think here about Miami with Huntley coming in. He does seem like the type of quarterback that wouldn't need a lot of time for them to script some plays for him. But I want to know what your take is on that.
Yeah, I think it's tough. Tough to figure out. Miami let me down last week. I kind of thought that they would be able to do some things against Seattle. Seattle's a team we haven't talked about, but they've looked pretty good against some weaker competition. But I thought Miami with that head coach kind of be able to get creative. They still have talented players on that team, skill position guys. I thought they'd be able to do more, and they weren't able to do it. I don't have a strong opinion on this game. Model really doesn't like it. I would lean a little bit towards the Miami side. I just don't like what I'm seeing from Tennessee. I don't like what I'm seeing from the quarterback. And you say, well, we haven't seen anything from the Miami quarterback. I just think talent on the field is the edge goes to Miami. If we can get anything out of the quarterback position, I think they win this game at home. So a slight lean here to Miami for me, but this is a really it's almost impossible for me to get a strong opinion on it.
I have a hard time with the fact that this guy's been there a week and they're a favorite. To me, that's just fucking insane.
They moved it to a favorite when he came in. Like
I know. Boyle's terrible.
Yeah.
But I just, Levis went in there last year and beat them when they were a 13-point dog. I can't stomach taking a quarterback that's only been there for a week, as a favorite. I like Tennessee in this game. I think Tennessee is going to win. Miami, they are needing to make a trade at quarterback or they're fucked to me. The next game for Monday Night Football, the last game of the week, is one that is a lot better. Seattle going into Detroit. Seattle's undefeated, but their strength of schedule has not been particularly strong with barely winning on the road in overtime at New England, and then the game against the beat-down Dolphins last week. Detroit had the tough loss at home to the Bucs where they probably should have won but kept screwing up in the red zone. They go into Arizona and have an impressive win last week. Seattle's getting 3.5, totals 46.5. Do you like the Seahawks to go 4-0, or do you think Detroit wins here?
I kind of like Detroit. I hate that the 3 plus the hook, man. It's always tough to lay that number, but man, Detroit at home, and then that building will be pretty crazy for a Monday night game against, like I said, a Seattle team who's played. I don't know if we expect them to go 3-0. They've kind of gotten lucky with the schedule here, but you're stepping up in class. This will be the best offense by far that they faced. I think Detroit will be able to outscore them in this game. I think it'll be fairly high scoring. I mean, 46.5 these days is a high total. I think we're averaging 41.2 right now in the NFL. So this is one of the higher totals on the board. I think we'll be able to get some points scored in the game. It always seems like in Detroit, kind of on that surface. Yeah, it's like dome on that surface. You can kind of run up and down the field. I think we'll get points. I think it'll be a fun game to watch. I think Detroit covers the 3.5 though. Again, don't have anything on the model on this one. Just my opinion. I like Detroit.
As much as the competition wasn't very good, I do like the way the Seattle defense played last week, and their offense is obviously always going to be there. We spoke on older pocket passers having more success in the modern NFL than they have in previous years. Geno being one of those older pocket passers, he's been fine where some other quarterbacks have struggled. The line has moved down from 4.5 to 3.5. I think Seattle keeps this one close and possibly wins. Detroit, their ball control game, running a lot of power running, a lot of shotgun running. I just don't think it's going to be that effective against Seattle's defense. Miami couldn't really run on them last week. I think Seattle goes in there and keeps it close and possibly wins. I just want to touch, before we give our best bets, I want to touch on Beanair coming in. I think that the game goes under 54, whatever it is now. Miami, I don't see them running up the score too hard in a conference game here.
So you probably agree. I like Virginia Tech tonight plus the points.
Yeah.
So if you like the under there, you probably like the Tech plus 17.5.
All right. What's your best bet of the week, John?
Best bet. As far as in the NFL, I'm going to have to pick between a couple. And it's going to be some. I'm going to go against it. It was going to be New England, but since you don't like New England, I'm going to try to take one. I'm going to go with Jacksonville here as the best bet. I think Jacksonville plus the 6.5, even at the 6.5 number. I agree with you. I think they have a good shot to actually win this game outright. So I'll go with Jacksonville.
My favorite bet of the week is the Jets laying 7.5 at home against Denver. I don't think the Broncos have much for them. I think the Jets are just going to go in there and take them out like they did last week with the Patriots. So for me, JBC and Stats. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.